All right, let's dive in. Today, we're going to talk about something incredible, a silent superhighway running inside every single one of us. It's so vast and so vital, it's literally the key to our existence. Yet most of us, well, we barely give it a second thought. We're talking about our vascular system.
I mean, just try to wrap your head around this. A superhighway that stretches for 60,000 miles. That's enough to circle the entire Earth more than twice. Now imagine that entire massive network fitting inside your body. That's the mind-blowing scale of your vascular system. All your arteries, veins, and capillaries, working 24/7 to deliver oxygen and nutrients to every last cell.
But for all its amazing design, there's a really critical reality we have to face. Even with all our incredible medical breakthroughs, diseases of this superhighway, vascular diseases, are still the #1 killer around the globe. So this isn't just some cool biological fact, it's one of our biggest health challenges. Understanding how it works, and more importantly, how it can break down, is absolutely essential.
So what really makes this internal highway tick? The real magic, it happens at a microscopic level. It's all about the cells that line every single inch of this network. Let's meet the unsung heroes of our entire circulatory system.
Okay, say hello to the endothelial cells. You can think of them as the ultimate gatekeepers, the guardians of your blood vessels. They form this incredibly thin, single-cell layer that lines the whole system. And their job? It's crucial. They're in charge of regulating your blood flow, they stop dangerous clots from forming, and they control what gets to pass from your blood into your tissues. They are the first line of defense, maintaining that delicate balance we call homeostasis. But what happens when that line of defense gets breached? This, right here, is where the story of atherosclerosis, the hardening and narrowing of your arteries, really begins. It's a slow, quiet process that kicks off with damage to these guardian cells. Look, the endothelial wall is tough, but it's not invincible. A constant barrage from things like high blood pressure, high cholesterol, diabetes, and smoking, it can all injure these cells. It's kind of like creating tiny cracks in the surface of the highway. And this damage, it compromises their defenses and sets off a really dangerous chain reaction. Now, I know this diagram looks a little complex, but stick with me, because it tells a fascinating story. It all starts when LDL cholesterol, that's the bad cholesterol, slips through the damaged endothelial lining and gets into the artery wall. Once it's in there, that cholesterol becomes oxidized. You can think of it like it's turning rancid. This oxidation triggers an inflammatory alarm, calling in immune cells called macrophages to clean up the mess. You can see them here, just gobbling up all that oxidized LDL. The problem is, they eat so much that they get bloated and turn into these things called foam cells. And those foam cells, as they pile up, they are the very first building blocks of the plaque that hardens our arteries. So the takeaway here is huge. This is not just a simple plumbing problem, right? It's not just a pipe getting clogged with gunk. As this quote points out, it has evolved into a complex, chronic, inflammatory disease. Your immune system, the very thing that's supposed to protect you, actually becomes a key driver of the disease, creating this whole dysfunctional network. For years, sometimes even decades, this plaque can just build up silently in the background. But eventually, that chronic clog can escalate into an acute crisis. Let's take a look at how this silent threat can suddenly become a life-or-death event. When we think about vascular crises, our minds usually jump straight to a heart attack, probably caused by a ruptured plaque. But the damage and inflammation happening in our vascular system can lead to another, equally dangerous problem: blood clots. This is what's known as venous thromboembolism, or VTE, and it creates a totally different kind of traffic jam, this time in our veins. And the risk here is pretty startling. Just being hospitalized is associated with an 8-fold, that's 8 times an increased risk of developing one of these dangerous clots. And it makes sense when you think about it. Things like surgery, being sick, being immobile, they can all make our blood much more prone to clotting. This is exactly why medical teams are so incredibly vigilant, always assessing patients for these key risk factors. As you can see here, things like recent surgery, being over 75, having cancer, or just not being able to move around, they all raise huge red flags and push doctors to take preventative action. And that preventative action is called prophylaxis, and it's definitely not a one-size-fits-all approach. This table gives you a snapshot of how doctors tailor the strategy to the patient. For most at-risk people, they'll use a low dose of an anticoagulant like enoxaparin or heparin. But for someone with a high risk of bleeding, well, then they might go with mechanical compression devices, we call them SCDs, to keep the blood moving without using drugs. Okay,
So we've seen how the system works, how it can break down, and how we try to prevent a crisis. But the future of vascular health isn't just about reacting to problems. It's about predicting them and personalizing the solution. We are entering the era of precision medicine.
This is the big question. This is what's driving the next revolution in medicine. Instead of treating diseases based on the so-called average patient, what if we could design prevention and treatment based on your unique biological makeup?
This slide just lays out the shift perfectly. On the left, you've got the old way, one size fits all, giving broad-spectrum drugs to huge groups of people. But on the right, that's the future, precision medicine. This new model uses your unique genetic data, your metabolic data, to find the root cause of your disease and then target it directly. It's the ultimate shift from being reactive to being truly proactive and personalized. And this diagram here, this is the blueprint. It starts with data, collecting a massive amount of your personal information, from your genome to your metabolism. Then an analysis platform, usually powered by AI, crunches all that data to pinpoint your specific risk profile. That leads to a personalized therapy designed just for you. But here's the game changer, the feedback loop. The system is constantly monitoring how you respond, feeding that data back in to update and refine your treatment in real time. And this brings us to a final, really powerful thought. The promise of this revolution in vascular health, it's just immense. With the power to understand our bodies at this incredibly deep individual level, the goal isn't just to treat disease anymore. The goal is to stop it from ever happening in the first place. Imagine a future where a heart attack isn't a tragic surprise, but a predictable event, one we can prevent decades in advance. Thanks for joining us.